And I hope you don't mind. You know, it's going to get a little bit warm in here, I have a feeling, so I'm just going to shed the jacket if that's okay.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Am I in your way?
Okay. Well, first off, I just got to say thank you, everyone, for making time out of your busy schedule and lives, especially coming off of a Labor Day, to come out and listen to candidates talk about this very important election that's coming up for sheriff in Fauquier County. So, again, thank you for coming out. First of all, thank you for putting this together. I remember speaking with you initially and how important this is to the community of Marshall, but also to the rest of the community in Fauquier County. Sheriff Fox, thank you for coming out, being part of this as well. One of the things that I'm reminded of when I came in the room and I got a chance to sit down and just look around and just see the different people that I know, that I've worked with personally, friends and familiar faces over the years, is just how important this is. And also, when thinking about that, just looking at this Marshall Business and Residents Association sign here, and how it has an acorn as part of the sign. I'm only taking that to mean as something new, something that's going to happen for the future. So what we look for in the future in growth, either in Fauquier County, what that looks like, and how we can preserve and protect that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by just talking a little bit about my background, so you have a very good understanding of where I'm coming from professionally. Because to tell you, I mean, I grew up here professionally. This is where I cut my teeth, so to speak, as a law enforcement officer under the guise of people like Sheriff Ashby Ollinger, Warren Lee Jenkins as the chief deputy. And I actually, another gentleman sitting in here too, Eddie Wines, that would be my first corporal when I was here working during the time. Eddie, are you back there somewhere? He's quiet back there. But I mean, when you think about this sense of community and what it brings to us together, it's it's a great thing. And it's something that Fauquier County truly enjoys, unlike other places where I've been. We do have a strong sense of community here. So, my background. I started off in the city of Manassas Park. I grew up not far from here. So when I started in Manassas Park as a policeman, I had the opportunity to work in a small department, which had its benefits. I was able to work crimes from A to Z. And what I mean by that is any crime that really could be anything from a parking ticket to a homicide. So I had that opportunity in uniform. Those skills, after I met my wife Cindy, who's with me tonight, I think so. Her family lived in Warrenton. When I moved down here, I was able to use those skills immediately, right out of the box, as part of in my patrol activities. So I started off as a deputy sheriff here. I started off on the bottom, just like anybody else. I worked my way up through the ranks, and then for the next 10 years, I covered positions so far as commander for criminal investigations, a commander for patrol operations, and also a commander for your special operations team or your SWAT team during that time period. Then I had the distinction to be selected as part of the International Police Task Force in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, what that rendered was a law enforcement officer from Fauquier County, Virginia, rural Fauquier, actually being in a place that was going through an armed conflict, a war zone, and I was sporting a Fauquier patch and badge representing Fauquier County inside Bosnia. I did that work for a year. I was elevated to a station commander within the United Nations, and I came back to Virginia with full intention of going back to work right back here. But there were challenges with the budget, and they were trying to get some things working, and during that time frame, I was selected by International Justice Mission as their Director of Investigations. So for the next decade, for the next 10 years, I wound up investigating or being part of leading investigations in things like forced child prostitution, things like child bonded labor, children as young as 5 years old being sold into sexual slavery, places like Cambodia, India, Honduras, Bolivia, the places where you cannot pick up the phone and dial 911. So I was able to become progressive in that sense, and for the next decade, I was involved in those activities. Later, I wound up answering a call from the Department of Defense, and folks, I've never been in the military before, but I have a new respect for our veterans and what they undergo, because they wanted us at the front end of the fight as it related to IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and terrorism. And what they wanted to know was how to investigate it from a law enforcement standpoint. How do we actually attack the network? So I did this work in Iraq for 2 years. I'd never been in a uniform before, but I found myself in a uniform, carrying a rifle. I was on the battlefield. So after that work and being recognized for that, I came back And so it's at a time where, you know what, I have really been able to do some pretty interesting things in life. And I thought about, I need to pay that back. To whom much is given, much is expected. So what I did is decided we're going to move back to Fauquier. We lived here for about 20 years altogether, wanted to come back, and I wanted to give back to our community. Because I could not have accomplished those things that I did professionally had it not been for what I received, the investment that took place in me right here. So I want to be able to give that back. So people have asked me, why are you running for sheriff? That's part of it. I absolutely want to be able to give back to the community. One thing I want to tell you about is community. And I tell this story, and I'm sorry if you've heard it before, I got to tell it again. I tell it because it's what we're about collectively as people in Fauquier County. This is something very unique, folks, very special, and I think everyone sitting here understands that, knows that for a different reason. And but I tell it in a short story, and it's this. It was last Thanksgiving, and we were going to have everybody over for Thanksgiving at our house. So Cindy and I, we had to go get a turkey, and we decided to go to Whiffletree Farm. If I'd known Kenlock Farm did turkeys, I would have come up here, but I don't know if they do. So anyway, I had to go down to Whiffletree Farm. We get out there, and we pick up a turkey to go pay for it. And I walked up, and I pulled the credit card out of my pocket to pay the man. And he looked at me, and he said, sir, we don't take credit cards. I said, okay, I'm sorry. So I said, Cindy, checkbook, cash? She didn't have anything on her. So here we are. I turned back around, and the guy that was there, before I could do anything else, he wrote out the address on a piece of paper, and he handed it to me. And he goes, sir, he goes, just, when you get home, mail us a check. So when I think about that, if I'd have gone 10 miles that way, 10, 15 miles that way, we lose that. I want to protect and preserve that right here. That is a sense of community that we enjoy. Very important going ahead. So now you're going to ask me, or people have asked me, what are some of the things that we need to look at, or what do we need to do? First off, I want everyone to understand one thing. I'm not running against Charlie Ray Fox. That is not what's going on here. What is going on here is I'm running for sheriff. And before I made my public announcement, I contacted Charlie Ray. I said, Charlie Ray, I said, I want you to hear it on the street, and I want you to hear it through the grapevine. I'm running for sheriff. I want you to hear it from me personally. Which he appreciated. And so that's the reason why we could have this forum and talk in a way that's civil and just enjoy each other's company and talk about very important issues. And that's what we're here to talk about. So the issues that I'm going to bring up, and this is on my campaign platform, it's on our website, it's the things that we're talking about. There are a couple of different things, but it really centers around something overarching. When I talk about overarching, it's at the top level, it's about accreditation for law enforcement. So when we talk about accreditation, there are several things that go into it, but I'm going to break it out in some different parts, and I'm going to hit it in different ways. And how am I doing on time? So, 2 minutes? Okay, I got to do this quickly. So, accreditation has to do with your administrative areas, it has to do with your operational areas, and your training areas. And so, when you get into those different areas of accreditation, it is going to be a self-survey that doesn't cost anything, maybe $250 for an application, but it doesn't cost money to do a self-survey. It may cost money at some point to implement changes that would need to be done. But what it does is to provide you with a framework to be able to understand what those needs are. And I want you to know that how many counties surround Fauquier? 7? Okay, this is not going to be, are you smarter than a 5th grader? It's not going to be like that. What it is, we have Warren County, Clark County, all the different counties that surround Fauquier. And I'll just tell you that all of those counties are Virginia accredited law enforcement agencies, every one of them, with the exception of Rappahannock. The other thing is, you should know, the town of Warrenton Police Department is an accredited Virginia law enforcement agency. The other thing is that the Virginia State Police is an accredited Virginia law enforcement agency. Fauquier County Sheriff's Office is not an accredited law enforcement agency. I will bring accreditation started in 2016 to this agency, and there are many pluses that go along with that. Now, the other thing that I'm going to focus on before we finish up, I only got about 58 seconds left, is this aspect of crime and what we're doing with this with technology and underreporting. And so the big one is we can install an online reporting system for probably in the neighborhood of about $20,000 or less, and the first year savings is anywhere between $30,000 to $70,000.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there you go. operational picture of crime, because you're missing it, because people have minor crimes that they don't want to report, because they don't want to bother a deputy, and they don't think it's important, but you're missing that crime picture. Am I time? Am I up?
Yep, you're
okay,
up.
so look, folks, I'm done, but you can talk to me more about this later, okay?